Well, hello, classmates. This is Steve Sherling, and I've been working with the internet for, I think, since 1990. First in the classroom and then into the business course when Facebook came online in 2004. It really, excited people about doing a lot of things. And just this last spring, I started looking at Facebook, for the class reunion. And there are a number of pictures and things that are up there. So, and there's about 40 people that are in there now. So you can join that, and I'll put a link up there later. But what I'd like to talk to you about is a little experience that I've had. And when I came back from China in 2000, the alumni board asked me to join the board. And the first meeting I went to, Bill Schneider resigned from the editorship of the Cynosure, and so they asked me to take that on. And of course, I had been doing newsletters and publications of conferences and things like that. So it was really an opportunity, and I really looked at it because as an opportunity to kind of make up for what I didn't do in high school, because I wasn't involved in a lot of the activities like the Cynosure and the annual and some of those other clubs and things. I was pretty much into hockey and getting ready for college, and of course Kathy as a girlfriend I was quite deeply involved with. But I really looked at it as an opportunity, and I tried to do my best in it, and I really tried to showcase the class of '62. And if you go back and look at the issues from 2000 to 2004, they had front page spreads and inside page spreads, and I always tried to make sure there was an item in the news about the class of '62. And my departure from that group was in part, the ideas that I was trying to push by making the Cynosure not just looking at the past, but more or less what's at the current, what you're doing currently. And the Rick Hall front page story on what he was doing was an example. Carolyn Holland's piece on the front page, Lynn Smithwick's piece, and the whole showcase of Marjorie Schlossman's chapel studio was on the front page. And so those were kinds of efforts that I did. And the first collage I did, which was in 2001, which was of our class, had two teachers on there. Let's see, Julie Moore, I think, is the first one. She was a gym teacher, and Bill Barney, and of course there's Margie and Rick, and then everybody else involved. There was sort of a collage I presented to the 40th reunion when we met, I think in 2001, getting ready for it, and so that was sort of the first kind of collage I did for the class. And my experience with the 40th reunion, as you all know, wasn't very pleasant, and I still have a hard time understanding. There were, working on a committee is tough. There's delays, and there were several delays besides the delay that I was, behind. And there was, different arguments and different kinds of positions and things that people had, and it just, that's the way committees are. And I really felt that it was inappropriate for what was done. And I've been working through it these last years, and I was quite excited to see that Gary Mallory was asked to be the chairperson of the 50th reunion. And he called me I think it was in January 2011, and told me that he would be at the 50th reunion of the class of '61. And I was already planning to go there because I had just finished, or I was about to finish, the midget 1961 hockey game that the class of '61 was going to show. I met Gary on Thursday evening, and we sat and listened to some of the great music that Jim was playing there, and we talked, had a few drinks, and really explored, what was going on with the committee, what my feelings were about what had happened, and how I might play a role, and what I was thinking about doing in the committee going in the reunion coming up. And I gave him a copy of the hockey game, and he said he'd be back in February 2012, and we'd get together and talk about that. He even sent me a card saying, "Hey, we'll get together and talk." And February came, and I didn't hear from Gary, but I did hear from Tom Olson at the end of March, and he said that he is on the committee now, and they had asked him to talk to me. And I says, "Well, great." So we met at the Hodo, and we talked about a lot of things. And he asked me if I would produce or recreate, I guess, the show of the obituaries, I guess you call it. I call it Remembering Our Classmates. And I said, sure, I'll do that. Then he asked about the photography, and I said, sure, the Shirlings will do that too. And I made reservations on those days, on Thursday and Friday. And then I learned that night that the committee was meeting, and Gary was in town, but I didn't hear from Gary. And but Tom and I kept emailing back and forth, and I started to create the Facebook page at that time. I thought about the idea and started to see how it might work. And then it was in July of July, I think 6th or 7th, that I called Tom and said the DVD is ready. You can come in and pick it up. And I had prepared 16 by 20 of the cynosure collage framed, and also a 20 by 24 of the 40th collage, and framed that and said that's, you know, for everybody to use, to post, and you can give it away as door prizes. Then Tom said that he had just learned, he was not at the June 2nd meeting, that the committee had decided to select a different photographer. And it was disappointing to me, and I asked him what the price was, and he thought it was around $200. And I said, well, whatever that cost was, it would have been half if Shirlings had done it. So the next day, Tom sent me an email and saying that he had looked at the minutes now, and he read some of them back to me and said that the decision has been made to also ask this photographer to do the memorial, the remembering of the classmates DVD or slide presentation. This really hurt, and so I, as far as I understood, it was you know, a done deal. It was within an hour that Gary called me, and of course I had, you know, the whole story, you know, had been just laid out to me as to what had happened, and I just let Gary talk, and you know, try to explain his way through what had happened, and you know, it was painful to listen to it, and I asked Gary, how could this happen? How could this happen again? And he says, I don't know. He had no explanation for it. And I says, Gary, but you're the chairperson of the reunion committee. I mean, the buck stops with you. It had to stop with you if it was going to do anything. And you know, Tom and I were working on this, and you know, and I can't understand, you know what you've done, what the committee has even done to Tom, you know, in terms of, you know, going around him and not making sure that was, you know, appropriate. And then now you call me and tell me this. Gary's logic was this is what he said to me, that the committee felt that they didn't want to take the chance of you causing any problems. So they decided that they would, you know, not use you as any kind of a videographer or photographer and go independent. And the second piece of logic that Gary supplied to me, he says, Steve, the committee wants you to come to the reunion, you know, and relax and meet everybody and have a good time and not worry about what needs to be done in terms of working with everybody or everything that you're involved with or would have been involved with. And I then thought about it for a moment, and I said to Gary, I says, you mean to tell me that the committee is choosing to avoid conflict, not work through conflict, not try to understand the positions and try to bring people together so that they could, you know, move forward on their disagreements. You choose to avoid it. I mean, I simply shook my head and I says, my God, it's 50 years later. Have we not learned anything about what needs to be done in these kinds of circumstances? We were making efforts in that. And then I says, so the committee is expecting me to come Thursday evening and sit through a group picture taken by another photographer and through all of the pictures of another photographer, and then Thursday evening to come and sit through a DVD presentation of the individuals who have passed away? I mean, I can't understand how that logic makes any sense. It doesn't to me at all. And so I told Gary that, you know, I was, you know, had to do something about this. And the thing that I have done is that I put, I would say, 30 hours, more than 30 hours into the remembering the classmates, the 1962 Midget Classmates DVD. And the story behind it is wow, interesting in terms of how I came up with the music and how that is behind there. And it has some copyrighted issues in there, and so I've been struggling. I can't post it on Facebook, but I found out a way. There is a way of doing it, I think, for a while, maybe on YouTube. But I have put it at my website too, and those addresses are going to be listed at the end of this video for you guys to look at and see. The question that, you know, we started looking at in terms with Bill Barney. Bill Barney, I remember going to the class reunion and the 20th class reunion, and it was on Friday night, and I think it was at the Holiday Inn, and we were all standing around Bill Barney. I must have been 15, 20 guys, you know, around him, and I was right next to him on his left side, and I heard him say to us that he thought the class of '62 was a special class. In all of the classes that he had at Central, he felt it was a special class. It was unique, you know, and in some sense maybe a creative class. I'm not sure what was the characteristic that he had in mind, but it was a perception of his that it was, you know, somewhat unique. And that has always been on my mind, and I've talked with a number of you guys when we've got together about what he might mean by that, and what is the implication of that, you know. And Kenny Pierre and I are going to, or we have already, you know, began to look at that idea and to explore it a little bit. And Ken and I go back a long time with our associations of asking the tarot cards and the I Ching questions, and so that's going to probably be the last thing that I'll post, you know, at the Facebook site before the reunion. So thank you for indulging me and listening to this story, and you all have a good 50th. See you on the other side, okay?